All right, cool. Let's kick it off. Welcome to Sprint Demos for Sprint 20, codename Calcium, Fleet version 4.47.0. Some exciting things to show you today. I know Endpoint Ops has the vulnerabilities page. I'm really excited to see. So I'm going to hand that over to Sharon and the Endpoint Ops team.
Yeah, indeed, the vulnerability page we'll start with, and I'll give it to Rachel, Jacob, and team. Continue. And Victor. Who starts? Rachel, Jacob?
Yeah, I'll give it a little intro. Thanks, Sharon.
Take it,
Hey,
Jacob.
everybody. An important use case for Fleet is, of course, endpoint management. Monitoring the presence of known vulnerable versions of software on an organization's hosts is an important task a security engineer might use Fleet to carry out. To facilitate this, we've implemented a set of features empowering that security engineer to view their endpoint data vulnerability first. They can now see a list of all known CVE identifiers, that's common vulnerabilities and exposures tracked in the National Vulnerability Database across their hosts, see information about each CVE and its presence on their hosts, and filter and export hosts containing a particular CVE, allowing them to quickly, easily, and thoroughly understand and communicate to others the status of a vulnerability in their fleet. So Rachel is going to show you around the UI features for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. All right. So as Jacob was mentioning, we added a bunch of vulnerability stuff to our UI. So there is going to be this new features tab in the software vulnerabilities right here. This tab right here is new. If you click on this, you now have a list of all your vulnerabilities. This is listed by whatever team that you are on. Thank you, backend, for building that. You can also look specifically at your exploited vulnerabilities, which has this little icon here in the probability of exploit column. And you can also search your vulnerabilities and reorder them as well. So I'm just going to click into one of these to see what it looks like on the UI. So you get this pretty page here, which has your vulnerability, and then you can get a vulnerable software table if there is vulnerable software that has this vulnerability, or you can also get a vulnerable operating system as well. So I'll show you that as well. And then the link to the NVD page is now up in this upper right corner here. So you can still get to the NVD details from the government. And then we now have updated the host page so you can filter by vulnerability. So you can see that I have 394 hosts that have this specific vulnerability. So those are the two new pages. So we have the vulnerabilities tab, and then you can click into getting into here. Also, we updated some existing pages. So if you go to the software tab and you look for a software that has a vulnerability, we can now get to all of that same pages. So it's kind of like this big circle. So if I go to the software version, I can see that it has vulnerabilities. These links used to go to the government page. Now it goes to our internal page about the vulnerability, and you can click on the government page up here. We also added to the software versions. You can also click on view all hosts, or just click on the row in general. And that will also get you to the CVE. And then the same thing for operating systems. So operating systems can have vulnerabilities on them as well. We added the link here to get to the CVE, and we added the view all host link to get to the main page. And that is it. One extra feature we ended up building mid-sprint was we realized that we want to be able to filter by team. So if you wanted to go on a specific team, you can click on a vulnerability, and this now has the affected hosts filtered by team apples. Same thing with the tables down below. And yes, there are vulnerabilities that are both on software and on operating systems. Let me see if I can find one real quick. I don't know. Let me just try.
Good luck. I've actually never seen one. I haven't seen one yet.
I did. It was like 2023. I should have saved it, but you'll see two tables here if there is vulnerable software and vulnerable operating systems for a single vulnerability. And I think that's it for the front end.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll go over just a little bit on the back end. Just want to reiterate some patterns that we have here. So as you are aware, we pre-calculate host counts on our software and our operating systems. We are also doing that in vulnerabilities. So these are cached values, and that is to help make this page really fast, as with the other pages. So keep that in mind. This runs. These hosts counts are calculated during vulnerability scans on the schedule, so an hour by default. I'm going to show a couple things on the back end, some APIs, some new APIs that support this feature. One, there's a new vulnerability query param on the host page. So now you can now filter hosts by CVE. We have a list all vulnerabilities. This is a brand new API. And this should look very familiar. This is the same information you get today in the software API. And we also have a single vulnerability detail API, which you should look familiar from the vulnerabilities tab. We have the vulnerability object here and any OS versions that it affects, as well as in this case, we have a null software. So that's what the API generally looks like. Also, I think Victor's going to talk about this in a little more detail, but we should state that this is going to go into our details page did not have team contacts before. They were showing global contacts for all our details. Details being a single CVE or a single OS, but they now have team contacts on here. So now the counts reflect the right counts for that team. And that's all I had. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Victor, you want to add anything?
I'll talk about it later when I talk about a different bug.
Okay, sounds good. So that was the vulnerability page. Thank you guys. And next we'll move to Victor and Jacob presenting two more features. Take it, guys.
Thanks, Sharon. So we have added, I'll just show you. We've added, are y'all seeing Firefox right now?
No.
No, you're seeing my notes. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so when running live queries, well, I'll show you the hosts first. We've got a bunch of hosts, and all of them are on the Apple's team except for admin. So when running a live query, we can now target no team. And that's that front end. Victor will tell you more about that one. The next feature that we did was we've implemented the ability to set a host status webhook at the team level. So we've had this feature at the global level, and this will now allow Fleet team admins to enable this setting at the team level. So it's just here. We've got this webhook setting on the team level. So we can enable it, disable it. We'll show and hide these fields and update them. And you can the admin can set whatever value for these they want. As of now in the UI, they're presented with these discrete quantized values, but they can update that via the API. Back to Victor for more on the back end of that.
Yes, Thank you, Jacob. Let me share my screen. So one thing you might want to do is set up the team webhook via GitOps or Fleet Control. This will allow also you to set the more custom values that aren't seen in the UI. So I can run Fleet Control, apply this to my team, and this is team 1. So if I go back to my teams, so I said 51%, and the webhook will fire here. So I have 2 hosts offline, so the webhook will fire. And I can just trigger it by running the automations trigger. And this is the webhook that comes back. We actually now see specific hosts that are offline by their host IDs, and then you got text tells you exactly what percentage of hosts are offline, and you get some numbers. So if I removed one of the hosts from this team, the webhook will not fire, because then we'll be at 50% and not 51% or more offline, like I specified up here. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Jacob and Victor. And the next thing is a follow-up on the great presentation that Victor did last time on GitOps, and Victor will show how it was applied to dog food. But before that, for the sake of new guys that joined and people that want to understand the basics of what GitOps is, think about when you create a new code, when you change code, we do it via PRs. Someone else is reviewing it to make sure we didn't screw up anything, and that's right to do. Now think about a big thing like the dog food. It has queries, it has things. If you do operations there, you can really mess up things. So the GitOps is basically a way to do operations in a controlled way, meaning the GitHub can do that for us with actions, and we need to review a code that is being submitted in order to do these changes. So a very simple example, let's say we want to add a query or delete a query from dog food or from our environment. We create the right code for that. Someone else approves it via PR. We check it in, and immediately this operation is being done. And actually, we created, Victor and I did a very hello world level video that thanks Dave for obfuscating some secrets in it, tokens and stuff. It is available for anyone that wants to understand the hello world level of GitOps. And with that, Victor, take it.
All right, thanks, Sharon. This has been checked into our main fleet repo, and we have an action that gets kicked off. So if you go to action, and there's a apply latest configuration to dog food action. And so this action runs when you update the configuration file. It can also be done manually, which I did earlier today to apply the configuration to dog food. So we can try making a change. So the dog food files are under this IT and security folder. And we've got the global configurations up here. We got agents, options, org settings. And as you can see, it accepts environmental variables. So I'm going to grab this. We'll see if we can make a change. And we got our teams here. So I'm going to go to the workstations team. And I'm going to edit it. I'm going to put this here. This doesn't actually make this is just for demonstration purposes. This should be set. Well, I'll show you where it's set later. I'm going to commit changes. All right. Can someone approve this? Maybe Sharon?
Yeah, 1 second. Was this 17505?
17505.
First, he has to check it first, Victor. He's not just gonna approve it.
It's not gonna... Maybe I'm gonna have a background job to sneak in some other changes.
That's a good point. Okay, looks good to me.
I'm gonna update it. Okay, I'll go ahead and squash and merge it. And then we'll see this got kicked off. The action got kicked off, so it's updating. It's going to update our repo. So while it's doing that, it's going to be one slow piece of it, which, so that's actually running. First, it's running dry run up here, so it's actually like checking. And then it runs the real run. So this part, so our Explore Data team has 321 queries. It's a little slow. I have a bug to look into this, but while it's running, I wanted to show you the environmental variables, like where to find them. So they are under GitHub workflows, and then this workflow is Dogfood GitOps. And so this is where the environmental variables are set. So there's kind of two places where they're set. So for the GitOps YAML files, they're all set here. So I was playing around with this one, which is set here in clear text. But other environmental variables come from secrets. So if you need to add one or modify one, you'd need to ask someone who has access to modifying the secrets in this repo to modify it. The other type of environmental variable you can have is you can have it in like essentially any other file, such as a MDM profile. So we don't have like native support for swapping in environmental variables, but there is a workaround where you can run this environment substitution command in your workflow and basically like put in this secret into your MDM config. So let's jump back. So our run has succeeded. So Dogfood is up to date with the profiles, all the configurations in the Fleet repo. Okay, Sharon, should I move on to the next feature?
Yeah, by all means. Thank you, Victor.
Okay. So next feature is populate policy data. So basically making an addition to get hosts API to also get specific policy information. So how this looks is like this. We can now hit our host API and we can tell it to populate policies. So this is a new addition. It's not by default, so you have to enable it. So if I run this, I now have hosts, and they should have, this one of them has policy data. There we go. So it has policies. Team-specific policies have a team ID, and the ones that are global don't have a team ID. So that's how that looks. Okay, back to you, Sharon.
Thank you. And last in the feature section, Rachel Perkins will show us new policy and query descriptions. Rachel?
You're muted, Rachel.
Right. Oh, thanks. I'm glad someone told me. Okay, all right. So here's a software that I found with the vulnerable OS and vulnerable software. So this is what that page looks like, going back to the vulnerabilities feature. And then for those of you demoing, just to let you know, product has changed these descriptions on the query and policy page. So it now says this queries is to gather data about all hosts or on hosts on a team. And then for policies, and it's the same, it's going to be we're detecting device health issues for all hosts or hosts on a team. And that's it.
Okay, and that is the features part. And back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Thank you, Endpoint Ops. Really exciting work coming out this release with vulnerabilities and GetOps. That's really exciting. Over to George and MDM for their feature work.
Alrighty, and starting us off today will be Gabe.
Hey guys, share my screen. So yes, I have one feature to show today. It's the roll-up of MDM solutions. So what I mean by that is if you look at current dog fooding, well, currently what's out there now, on the dashboard page, we have this card, mobile device management, where users can look in here and see which MDM solutions they're using, get a bit of information such as the name, the server URL, and the number of hosts using those solutions. But the issue was, and you can see it here, it's slightly confusing in that we have two MDM solutions, both named Fleet, and you're getting slightly different information for what seems to be the same solution. So the feature was to roll up MDM solutions by their name. So here you can see now it's changed to be just one fleet. You can see the total amount of hosts that are using that solution. And this is now clickable, where if I click into here, it's going to open a modal and you're going to see that other solutions or other information from the last table. You can see in the Fleet MDM solution, these are the different server URLs you have, and these are the number of hosts associated with those. And you still have the option to filter hosts by this server URL. So I'm just going to click on that, and you can see the filters being applied, just showing one host. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the roll-up feature for MDM solutions.
Awesome,
Any
thanks
questions?
for that.
Cool.
Next up, we have Haziel.
Hello, everybody. Cool. Yeah, so let's take a look first at this guy here. Yeah, this has been a feature request for a little bit now. But basically just wanting to increase the character limit for saved scripts. So before it was capped at 10,000 characters, but there are scripts such as Installator, that's a good example, that a lot of customers want to run that are much bigger than 10,000 characters. Some of these demos are kind of like are those demos that seem kind of underwhelming, but there's stuff that had to happen in the background for it. So if we go to controls and scripts and we come over here and we take a look, I should have this. Yeah, I have this very big script called huge. And it has 500,000 characters, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead and try to upload it. We can get to the right file. Yeah, here we go. And it worked. Yeah, so this should enable some new flows for some of our customers that are wanting to run bigger scripts on their hosts. So it's that guy. The next one is allowing add in Windows configuration profiles. So before this, we only had we could only support replace in profile XML files. But now that we have this capability, we can include add as well. So just to show this off as well, again, this is just a fairly simple upload change from the UI perspective, but or actually before that, come over here and see. So this is the profile that I'm going to upload, and you can see up here at the top, like there's several replace nodes, but we also have an add as well for this force start size configuration. And so it's this guy right here. And before, this would have failed right here with, you know, this is invalid. We only allowed replace, but now we're able to add it without any problem. And let's go back over here. So this one, I had this one cooking in the oven before this demo, because otherwise we just would sit around for a while waiting for the timeout to happen. But this was just an update to some copy to give a better error message when there's a live script timeout. So this wrapped up just a minute ago. And you can see here, this is the updated copy. We're just mentioning that 5 minutes is the timeout for live scripts, and we're not sure what the status is because we didn't get a result back. So just a little bit of a clearer message for folks when the scripts time out. And that's it.
All righty, thank you, Haziel. And I want to just note something about the increased character limit for saved scripts. It's a little more than just bumping 10K to 500K and calling it a day, because the previous architecture was saving the contents into the activity feed. So every time you were running a script, it would go into the activity feed and copy the contents over and over again. And we've updated that now to have a reference file to a stored structure of contents. So we're not duplicating that large amount of contents over and over and over again. So it's a big performance improvement overall. All righty. And then I will share my screen for Martin's work that we have here. And I believe this is the correct window. And so first of all, we had the command to install OS updates for Windows configuration profile was not surfaced to the API in CLI. And so as of today, after you change the OS updates, you will be able to do fleet control get commands and see the install profile action that happened. And then we have a small demo for Windows wipe.
All right, so I have a Windows VM enrolled into Fleet here.
Let me know if can everybody hear what Martin is saying.
Yeah, sounded good.
Enrolled with MDM. So that's my VM on the right side. If I go to Actions, I have options to lock and wipe the host, and we'll show the wipe process here. So I have to confirm that I want to wipe this host, and let's go ahead and get rid of that VM. So currently it's pending wipe. You can see the little pill here, and it should receive the MDM command any moment now. If I refresh here, yeah, we still see that wipe pending. Oh, there we go. So you can see the VM restarting, and it should be in a fresh state. Oh yeah, of course, I had some updates pending, but yeah, I don't think I'll keep the video going through all this, but you can see the process now. Oh yeah, I should refresh just to show the wipe bill showing after besides the host name. So there you go. Host is wiped. Ready for a new user.
All righty. And then next up, we have Roberto.
Hello. Let me share my screen. Um, let's see. Yeah, I have two stories to show. The first one is automatically renewing host SCEP certificates before expiration. These are important because they're used for MDM authentication for Apple. If you're interested more about the details, we have a glossary here. You can learn more about that. But these certificates are issued during enrollment and last for 1 year, and they need to be renewed before they expire. So what we have now, I have here a computer that has a certificate that is going to expire tomorrow. We have now a periodic cron job that will check if there are some certificates that are about to expire, and it will send the right commands to the host. So what I see here in the server logs is that it ran and it sent the commands. It's basically an install profile command with enrollment profile, and the host will re-enroll to get a new certificate. Yeah, and if I go to the keychain, I can see my certificate in there. I don't know how can I zoom in here, but it is going to expire a year from now. We'll be doing this 30 days before expiration. And the other one is about running the Puppet module using GitOps, the GitOps user. As of today, you need to a user a token with elevated privileges to run some of the the Puppet workflows that do a profile assignment and so on. So if I think I have a cheat sheet here. So if I create a GitHub user, so it's a global role of GitOps, an API only user, and I'm going to get the token for the user. Oh. So if I grab this token and I configure my Puppet module, zoom in a little bit. So I configure my Puppet module with that token that I just got. I can do a Puppet run. This will make sure the host has the right profiles and it's in the right team. So if I go now to my host that it used to have just the fleet configuration and it was in no team, I refresh, it's now in the right team after the Puppet run, and it's applying new settings. Those are already very fine. So yeah, those are the two issues.
Awesome. And next we have Sarah.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to show off a new feature that we've added. Apple Business Manager and the Automated Device Enrollment, ADE, formerly known as DEP, can sometimes be a little buggy on the Apple side, where when we attempt to assign the enrollment profile to a device, it may fail for an unexpected reason. And if we retry after a failure, some rate limiting can kick in. So we were having issues where devices would get stuck in a pending state for forever because they were constantly rate limited. So we've added, kind of overhauled our process for ingesting devices from Apple Business Manager and how we synchronize the enrollment profiles for their devices. This was a pretty big overhaul of some of the earliest work that we did on macOS. So it's definitely a move in the direction of MDM maturity that I think was well worth the effort. The most visible change here is that now if a host is failing, if we're failing to assign a enrollment profile to that host in ABM, if Apple tells us that for whatever reason that failed, we will now surface that to the IT admin by adding this additional icon and tooltip for a pending macOS host. Behind the scenes, we're also going to apply a 1 hour cooldown for these assigned profile requests that fail. In our testing, we found that a 1 hour cooldown generally will solve the issues with the rate limitation. So in most cases, we would expect that this icon shouldn't appear longer than an hour for most hosts, unless something bigger is going on behind the scenes, in which case we'd want to look into it. Yeah, so that is that. The other feature that we wanted to demo, as part of the script's character limit story, one of the things that we also did was improve the experience for users who are trying to run live scripts via the command line. So previously, a user would need to could only really run a live script via a file by providing a script path like so. So what we've done is we've improved sort of what users can do with a live script by giving them the possibility of, instead of providing the script path, providing a name for a save script along with a team, because if the same script name exists on multiple teams, you'll want to target it to that specific team. So what that ends up looking like is something more like this. In this case, we'll try to run this script. We'll see an error because this script doesn't exist on the team. We default to no team, and so there is no F1337 script on no team. But if we run it again with the team flag, we'll see that the script is running, and it's running from the save script on the Fleet server, which allows for IT admins to run longer scripts with the increased character limit. We allow longer scripts to run via the save script path. If you attempt to run a longer script via live scripts through the old way with just the script path argument, we limit that to 10,000 characters. There you go.
Alrighty, thank you. And that's it for MDM features updates. Back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Great demos. Back over to Sharon and Endpoint Ops for bug fixes and improvements.
Thank you. And a lot of topics, reminding everyone to be concise with the bugs and improvements. Let's start with Victor. Take it.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so first I'll cover this bug with Unicodes. So I'll show the bug. I'm not going to play the whole thing, just jump around. Looks like I was already jumping around. So suppose you have a team, a workstation team that looks like this, and then you wanted to add a new team. Maybe you made a copy of your config, or you just added a new team that just has the emoji change here. So what would happen once you would apply it, instead of creating a new team, it would just overwrite the old team. So that's the bug. So you could potentially overwrite your team settings. So now we support emojis for teams. So I can create a team with an emoji, and then can create a new team with a different emoji. So now, emojis are now treated differently. So they're not the same. So this solves the emoji problem for teams and for policy names. There's another problem with Unicode called Unicode equivalence, which is the opposite of emojis. Sometimes you want characters to actually be the same. So I'll demonstrate. So I will create a team with the following names, which has 2 characters. So build fleet control, apply. I applied one team. So now this team is here. And say I want to create a team. I want to go back to that bug. I want to create a team, and I put this one, which is actually 2 characters. So in Unicode, this symbol, which is one character, is equivalent to this 2 character. So these 2 characters are equivalent in Unicode to this one. Once I create, it says the team with this name already exists. And on the back end, we use the composed form. So once the team is created, we take those 2 characters and use the composed form, which is 1 character over here. So basically now we should have full Unicode support for team names and policy names. I believe adding additional Unicode support for other things, queries, etc. It's not urgent. I mean, it is kind of a bug, but the main reason we wanted to handle teams is because we are using emojis in our dog food. So I'm going to bring them back once this is on dog food. Okay, moving on to other bugs. So next bug, OS versions. So let me the OS versions. Okay, so we have an OS versions endpoint, which gives you basically all the OSs. And the bug was that a team user, when running this hitting this API point, would get all the OS versions, including all the CVEs for those OSs, even though they weren't on their team. So now hitting the same endpoint as an OS, as a team 1 user, will only return that that team's OS version. In this case, it's 1. So basically, same endpoint, but a different user will return different results. A related thing that's related to the vulnerabilities page is to OS versions and a couple other endpoints. We added this team context. So now if an admin is running OS versions with team equals 1, they will get just the OS versions for that team. And this was needed for the vulnerabilities page because we had the team filter there. There's another related endpoint where you can just hit get a specific OS version, like by ID. So you can get OS version 8, and that also accepts a team context, which in this case is the same. But if I was a team 1 user, I wanted the OS version of a different team. Currently, for this specific one, return empty. But for other endpoints, we return 403. But I kept this one empty just to be consistent between OS versions ID and plain OS versions, which returns empty as well. And last bug is improving vulnerability processing. So I'll just show kind of the results. That's the issue itself. I had some pictures. Oh, so this is how our vulnerabilities processing is looking. In my case, I had some vulns. It took over a minute. Not great, but you see a significant amount of time was spent on matching because we, for every software that we have in Fleet in a database, we matched against every CVE, every vulnerability that we find. So that's a lot of matching. So the fix is that I grouped our vulnerabilities by vendor. So now instead of matching a software against every vulnerability, we first match it by vendor, and that may just eliminate any additional matches from that group of vulnerabilities. So the results seem to be clear this. So basically from 75 seconds, in my example, I went down to 31. And that big bar in the flame graph is now down here. So a significant reduction. There's one caveat, which assumes that vendors, everyone has every vulnerability and every piece of software has a vendor, which means we don't support like a wildcard in the vendor name, which I believe it's a pretty safe assumption. So, I mean, the next thing, as you can see, is we're processing a lot of JSON, so we could speed it up even faster by maybe storing our data in a different format than JSON for vulnerability processing. That's it for my bugs. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you. And next is Jacob with a bunch of fixes. Take it.
Yeah. So first up, we had a long-standing issue with these icons here on the edit query and edit policies forms. You can notice that their alignment with the text is inconsistent, and even that inconsistency is inconsistent across browsers. This actually looks like the fixed version. But long story short, and there was some issues with the tabbing. So, weird states like that. Long story short, we've just cleaned up that whole area. So the icons follow the text a little more consistently, are aligned consistently, and cleaned up the UI a little bit there. Next up, just added some missing integration tests for one of the endpoints, so nothing to demo there. And finally, well, not finally, but the last major bug fix is these search fields. Let's see, this should be the buggy version. So and search for admin. Oh, that's fixed. Let's go to dog food. So searching for a number of entities. See if we search for Jacob, we get my computer. But if we add a space, it's not going to match Jacob, where most likely we want that to match Jacob. So we just updated the endpoint in most cases and the UI in one client-side filtered case to match when there's a space, a leading or trailing white space on the search query. That applies to the hosts software queries and I believe policies. Yeah. And beyond that, just a few smaller kind of alignment bugs. So I'll leave those to y'all to enjoy when you're using the UI and save us some time. So back to you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Next, we have Tim, vulnerability processing, erroring, and Unicode names.
Yeah, mine's a real quick one. Maybe not even worth a demo here, but yeah, we were erroring on Unicode app names. In this case, I think this is like a Russian Chrome extension, remember right? So we're erroring. We actually don't support Unicode at this time of engineering initiative to start looking at that. But yeah, now it no longer errors. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, team. And Rachel is next with a few fixes.
Awesome. I'm going to start with this bug that Kathy filed on, well, 3 weeks ago. So basically, when attempting to transfer all hosts from one team to another using the bulk transfer, it was transferring everybody in Fleet. So I'm going to show you guys the fix. So you can see here I have oranges is my team with only 101 hosts instead of the 2000 or whatever. And this works with all of these filters on here as well. So if I wanted to do offline hosts only, I want to go by my max only, and I want to transfer hosts that only have the letter A in it. Well, it's not just host names, but it's UID, serial number, blah, blah, blah. So I have these 96 hosts. You can now see that it's only going to transfer those 96 hosts when you use this bulk action here, select all matching hosts. The moment you click on this, we change the API calls on the front end from using like ID numbers to filters for these two buttons. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and you can see it says 50 plus selected. So I'm going to transfer all 96 hosts into my empty team. And the bug fix is, well, that's not good. The demo gods are mad at me. Why are you mad? Okay, well, we need to fix that. I kind of want to know what's wrong right now. Validation failed. Oh, may not be provided with the label ID. Oh, that's an issue. Yeah, so those, I think they're documented on the REST API that you can't use both of those at the same time. We should definitely document that on the front end in case anybody does that. Yeah, label ID and status cannot be used at the same time. So sorry, I'm going to take off a label. We want to note that might be a good UI fix to let users know that you can't use these two filters at the same time for transferring. So I just got rid of my Mac label filter. And I'm going to try this again. I think we find so many bugs during demos. My computer's running really slow. So I just clicked on that. I'm going to select all matching hosts again. I'm going to hit transfer. Transfer to team empty, which had no hosts in it to begin with. My computer is running really slow. It wasn't running slow when I practiced this. We should do demos more often and we'll find more bugs. That's right, Victor. I agree. And now I'm just kind of waiting for this computer to load. I don't know what's going on. Looks like, there it goes. Okay, so now it successfully went to team empty. You'll see we have no matching hosts here. You go to team empty, you can see we have those 96 hosts. Cool. All right, so that's the first bug. Thank you, Kathy, for finding this.
Rachel, if I may add a few words on this bug. First, thank you for finding this bug. It was with us for a long time. So thanks for actually catching this sneaky bug. Obviously, we defined it as a critical bug immediately.
Oh, I haven't got to the critical part yet. This one's done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Okay, I'll let you describe it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So that's the bug that Kathy found, which was just the team transfer bug. So that's fixed and in main and going to be released with 4.47. So while I was doing that, it was a full stack bug. So we had issues in the back end and the front end where it was not updated to have team transfer. But while I was looking at the code for the front end and the back end, I realized we were also missing parameters for all of the other filters that are not visible on this page right now. So you can see that we have 4 filters on this page, but if you were to go and filter your host some other way, like low disk space host, this is my favorite example. This is where we found, or where I found a bug where we can't actually use these bulk transfer and delete. So that is a new critical bug, 17257. And I believe it was Jason who sent this out to all of our customers. Sorry, I hit the customer names here. Basically explaining this bug that we are going to mitigate it. But right now, from the endpoint ops teams, we've decided we are going to hide that select all hosts button. So if you look here, you can't see it if you use any of those filters that are unsupported. So that is going to be the Band-Aid fix until product in the backend agrees on how to fix the bug in the backend. Yeah, and then like Sharon said, this has been since the dawn of time bug. This has been in Fleet for years since it started. And, you know, a lot of us have touched this code, added low disk space or added MDM stuff or added all sorts of different filters. And none of us realized that the transfer and delete was able to use those filters, but was not working correctly. So now that what if I want to delete all my hosts? Good question. So you can still delete, you can still transfer and delete, but just not with these filters applied. So if you wanted to delete all your hosts, you can remove this filter and then you'll see that select all matching hosts shows back up again when you click on this button. So these 1, 2, 3, 4 filters work properly with selecting all matching hosts. The other 16 filters removes this UI, which calls the original API. And you can see in the API docs here that we have a regular transfer, which uses the host IDs. And then we have this bulk transfer, which uses the filters. And we added this team ID, which the docs is ahead of 4.47. And then same thing with deletes. If you were going to delete, you can see that there's 2 different ways to bulk delete hosts. One is by a filter and then one is by the list of IDs. So the filter is missing a lot of the parameters that we show in the UI. Any questions?
I'll add a few words on this and update like from really last minute updates. This is still in final approval, so kind of take it with a grain of salt. But as Rachel explained, Rachel blocked all the UI options to use filters for bulk operations, which are not supported, and we only support 4 filters. So we want 2 things in short term and long term. For the short term, we block the UI, and also we are now discussing with Noah and team to also block it at the API level, so no one can do that. And at the long term, we may want to support other filters, but this is something we could do next sprint or whenever priority allows it. And that we aim to do the 2 urgent things for the 447, which is early next Monday. And yeah, that I think concludes this really nasty bug. Thank you, Rachel, again for catching it, and please continue.
Yeah, so there's our P1 bug. Everything else is a little bit softer. Just a few, what do you call this? UI styling bugs. So if you were to go to macOS and you look at monkey issues, oh, where did my Zoom go? Oh, there it is. Okay, you can see that this is now fixed where you can see all of the tooltip text. We were having issues with updating our tooltips and just missing a few locations for that. So now everything should be global fix. I think, you know, the lesson learned from a lot of our bugs this sprint is to make sure that everything is fixed on a global level and just not one-off fix things. We have a few host styling page cleanups, so this page is a lot cleaner now with using the same little mini components across the entire app. So this is all globally styled. What else do we have on here? And then same thing with the search bar icon. I know some of us have noticed that the search bar icon keeps moving back and forth and it's not pretty. So we did a global fix for that to make sure that this icon is always in the same spot, no matter what icon you put in or where you use it in the UI. You should see that icon being in the center of that thing. I was trying to show you, it's also on a filter icon on the results as well. Yeah, here we go. So this icon is also globally styled like that last icon to be in the center of this box. And I think that's it for my end.
Thank you, Rachel. And heads up, Luke, I think you're going to like this one. This is the oldest bug in our system. Lucas, take it. Lucas, are you?
You're muted.
Are you muted?
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, the oldest bug, which basically some users were complaining about this field being empty. And let me show you basically what's the fix. So this public IP that you could argue public IP is not a good name, but we can have a discussion later for that. Basically, this user, sorry, I want to go back to the issue. This user was using a VPN to connect to Fleet. So the VPN on the public IP address was not being shown because we were filtering it because it was a private address, something like 10.00 something, right? In the past, we decided to filter out private addresses because it was, we thought it was confusing to show a private IP here. But we've heard the user and we believe it's better to just show how Fleet connects to the, how the device connects to Fleet. So we now change this tooltip, actually Rachel changed this to actually indicate that this is the IP the host uses to connect to Fleet, right? Could be public, could be private. We just show the IP, right? That's about it. So we can have this host that connects, I'm running Fleet locally and this is my device, so it's 127.01. But then you can have other devices that connect through the actual real internet, so you'll show a public IP. Again, this user, once we deploy this change, they should start seeing this IP, their VPN IP there. All right. Okay, this sprint I spent like 2/3 of the sprint working on load testing. We had this big customer with 140,000 devices running 100 queries, 100 scheduled queries with a data rate of 2 kilobytes per second per host. So it was a very heavy load test that we had to run for this customer. I believe it's the heaviest load test I've ever run. So it took a lot of time because it kept crashing the whole thing, either the L squared simulator or Fleet or both. Again, it took many times. The result of that load test was a few recommendations. Increase Fleet memory. So let me just back up. This customer has this setup, and which is heavy, right? They are logging a lot of data. And when we release a new Fleet version, the best practices is to bring Fleet down, do the upgrade, the migration, and then bring Fleet back up. They were worried about data loss during the time Fleet is doing the migrations. So we basically told them we were going to do a downtime test of 30 minutes. This is the worst case scenario where, I don't know, you're migrating Fleet. Let's say we make a change in the software table and it takes 20 minutes to do the migration, right? Something like that. So we ran this test, and basically the recommendations were to bump up memory because when Fleet comes back, there's a thundering herd that could bring Fleet down. The other recommendation was to turn off for reports. Again, you can imagine it's once Fleet has been down for 30 minutes, OS query will buffer all the logs. So when Fleet comes back, you have a gazillion logs, bashing all the Fleet instances. So as a recommendation, we told them to disable query reports. Again, this customer had this off, which was a good news because, again, this is a very heavy load test. And by having software inventory on, basically destroyed the load test environment. Again, this is future optimizations moving forward. And lastly, some flags configure OS query to reduce the size of the requests, and some other improvements or recommendations to increase visibility interval during this downtime period. So again, the deliverable was basically two set documents explaining what they should do to not have data loss, or basically to not bring their Fleet instances down. All right, next issue, for campaign not clearing from Redis after timeout. This was a critical bug found by a customer using the live queries APIs. This is the first customer that is running live queries in a very special way. Usually when customers run live query, you have 10 users, maybe 20, 100 users running queries like this, and they run a query, and that's about it, right? But now we have a customer that really wanted to run 3 times a day, run one live query on one host for all the hosts. So basically, I think we have 10,000 hosts, so they run 30,000 live queries across all hosts. And we found a very small, low probability bug that is also present on this live query, right? The bug is here too, but it's happens once every 10,000 times. Again, no customer found this, but this customer that was running a lot of live queries found this bug, which was, thank you, Robert, and everyone involved here, was causing a lot of Redis load. And we found it by, actually, I think Victor found the bug, and we managed to run, to represent this bug by running this stress test, which is basically run 2,000 live queries on the same host, but instead of waiting for the request to terminate, we kill it. We time out the request, which was very specific edge case. But again, we got it to fix. You can see here, maybe I can run this. So we bashed it, and the bug was that after doing this, we ended up with some kind of queries here like this one. This will actually go away. So empty array. This is a good thing, right? The bug was that we were left with some queries on the active set, which meant that Fleet was in live query mode forever. Usually live queries are expensive when it comes to Redis usage. So you get some spikes when you run a live query. But imagine that with this bug, you have no spikes. Basically, Redis is 100% of the time using as if you were running a live query all the time. Again, this was a very big team effort, and we got it fixed. Almost done here. Sorry if I'm taking long. This was another bug from the community. Very edge case, but again, it happens. And this was logged on CentOS when you query the dev packages on a CentOS host. And this happens, basically was an OS query core bug that we fixed in 5.12. And it happens because very specific reasons that OS query will decrease the privileges of the query while running the query. And that was causing this permissions denied error. Very specific bug, but we got it fixed on OS query. I cannot really reference this, so it would take a long time. But I believe Reed will QA this soon. It's on awaiting QA. And lastly, I'm almost done. This one, the same customer that was worried about Fleet being down for 30 minutes was worried about Orbit spamming the logs. If you have Fleet down, you will get gazillion of these logs. And it was causing alerts in their systems. So what we added was, if I bring Fleet down here, this looks like I have Fleet running. So I'm stop Fleet, right? Now Fleet is not running. And if I tail my Fleet D device, it will log a network error once every 5 minutes instead of, like, I don't know, once every 5 seconds or so, which is basically reducing the spam while keeping some indication that there's something going on. Yeah, and that was released in 1.22. I believe that's it.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you, Robert, for helping us with the Redis thing. A lot of insightful information. Thank you for that. One last sentence before we wrap up, giving people something to be excited about the next sprint. We are going to look at the Fleet in your calendar exciting feature. Stay tuned, and thank you very much. Luke, it's yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Endpoint Ops, for your commitment to bug fixes. Our bug open time KPI goal is 32 days. Last Friday, it was at tied with our all-time low at 26 days. So on Monday, when we close this out and includes our oldest bug, I expect we'll be at a new all-time low for bug open time. So that is awesome. Appreciate it. Speaking of, we have some more bugs to go over. We have 15 minutes for the MDM group, handing over to George.
Yep, not a lot of time, so let's try to get through these rather quickly. Gabe, go ahead.
Hello, go real quick. So just two to show. The first was an issue in the UI for the software page. If you look here, this is kind of what the image was, or the issue was. It was this this loading state, but showing parts of the table didn't really make sense to show. So the fix was just to show only the loading state, which looks like, sorry, I meant to throttle that. Which looks like that. So now you don't see this bit of the table you're not supposed to see. The next issue was another just quick UX improvement on the controls page on the OS updates page. Yes, OS updates page. This was constrained to a smaller width. So you didn't really get the advantage of having a wider viewport in the browser. So now it goes all the way across the viewport of the browser, and we're no longer constraining it to a smaller width. And that's it. Oh, one more I should just mention. We also upgraded Go to 1.21, and another upgrade is coming soon to 1.22. And that's it.
All righty, next up we got Haziel.
Alrighty, so a couple of quick ones as well. This one, basically when certain configuration profiles were required to be removed, they weren't being removed, but also Fleet wasn't giving like feedback on that, saying that we failed to remove them. The actual issue about why this particular profile wasn't removed was fixed a while ago, but we still, if that situation were to arise again, we weren't giving feedback. So it was going to be kind of hard to demo that live, but I made kind of a contrived example. So this is what the UI looks like now. In the back end, we are not ignoring, we were ignoring these errors at one point, but now we're not ignoring them anymore. So if your profile couldn't be removed, we will bubble that up and show you, so you know what the status is. All right, and then yeah, so we have this guy about including the type for MDM commands for Windows profiles. So you can see this is what the previous state looked like. The type column here, when you fetched the command results from fleetctl, was empty for Windows profiles. So now if we get the commands, so this guy right here, this is my Windows VM. And you can see that the type is filled in with install profile. I added a profile there a little while back. And if we do get command results, we scroll up, see that we include the install profile type here as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Alrighty, next up we have Roberto.
Hello. Let me go quickly through the ones that I have in my list. This is very related to what Sarah was showing about the revamp of ADE JSON profiles. While she was working on that, we found a couple of issues. There are others on the board, but this was really important because we were hitting those rate limits because we were trying to assign JSON profiles that were already assigned. So host already had the right profile. So we fixed that. That hopefully will improve, allows us to improve in areas like the migration flow, and other flows as well. This is related to the certificate renewal. We had like a minor point version in between the weeks, mostly to get the feature done, and afterwards we found this problem. So this is a fix that it's going out as well. Yeah, there was a critical bug that didn't allow people to enroll using SSO for automatic enrollment. Turned out to be a very simple fix, but yeah, huge props to Katie for actually finding what was the problem. Was tricky to find out. And then another issue with the Puppet module. Turns out we found an issue if the Fleet server goes down in between Puppet run, that it's likely to happen during, for example, a new release. You might end up in a scenario where we unintentionally remove some profiles for host and then reinstall those profiles later. So we patched that. We issued a new Puppet release to the Forge, and yeah, that's there. And finally, an UX improvement that we missed during the initial implementation of the story. We now are showing the verifying status for disk encryption in macOS while we verify if the encryption we got is true. This was really confusing because it was showing as pending for a long time, and it always trip people up. So now we are displaying the right status for that. And that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for all those. And Sarah.
Cool. I'll make this quick for y'all. Here are a few UI polishes, pretty self-explanatory, and I will just leave you with this haiku and AI art to bring it all home.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. And that wraps up the MDM team's bug fixes.
It's awesome. What a way to cap it off, Sarah. Great demos, everybody. Appreciate it. Any questions for anyone? Comments before we wrap up? All right.
Really,
Cool.
really good. Awesome. I'm thrilled. This is the first time I think I've seen a whole cycle, and maybe I'm just excited because I'm seeing the issues that I care about getting fixed.
Yeah. You saw them before they went into the board, the full like drafting sprint release cycle. But it's awesome. It's awesome to see the velocity that we're pushing out features and fixes.
You guys are great. Thank you.
Great. We are on schedule to publish end of day on Monday. We're going to start testing the release candidate first thing Monday morning. So all day Monday, we'll just be getting that ready and getting that out the door. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. And if I don't see you today, I'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.